As some of you will already know, most Train Sim World routes only take place in the United Kingdom, Germany, or United States of America, thus calling the use of the word world in the game's title into question. At the time of uploading, there are only 8 exceptions to the rule, and 3 of them are set in Switzerland. But the trouble is that all 3 of these Swiss routes were made by the notorious third-party developer Rivet Games. Much like West Cornwall Local, S-Bahn Zentralschweiz was a route that I absolutely refused to buy for the longest time. But, for whatever reason, sheer curiosity got the better of me. Today, and in the next video too, we're essentially going down the railway equivalent of Sydney Watson's Hell Gondola. This add-on was first released in March 2022, back in the TSW2 era. It's still available on Steam as of late September 2024, where the full price for the version compatible with TSW5 is $36 New Zealand dollars, and it's $5 less for the TSW2, TSW3 and TSW4 versions. As for route coverage, you only get the 26 kilometers, or 16 miles of track, from Luzern to Zorzee, with Luzern being around 52 kilometers south of Zurich. Why is this route so goddamn short? Surely it wouldn't have been too much to ask to add the rest of the S1 line out to Bar. Weirdly, the Luzern to Zorzee section is the same length as the Arosa line, and as bad as Rivet's rendition for TSW is from a quality perspective, at least that's a complete end-to-end route. Come to think of it, complete end-to-end routes are generally a rarity in TSW. Only one train is included with the Luzern to Zorzee route, namely the Swiss Federal Railway's RABE 523. This unit is part of the Stadler Flirt family, and although I've never seen any Stadler trains or locomotives in real life, well, not yet anyway, I hear that the manufacturer has a good reputation. One of the few things that Rivet actually seems to be good at is the modelling of rolling stock, and this rendition of the RABE 523 is no exception. Now I don't know about you, but to me, the sounds on this unit are just, for want of a better word, weird. Especially when the train's leaving a station and rushing past at speed. This doesn't really surprise me, given that Rivet has nearly always done a poor job where the audio is concerned. Here's a demonstration of the RABE 523's sounds, and to an extent, she reminds me of the Flirt 3 that comes with Frankfurt to Koblenz in TS Classic. Timetable mode features 112 playable services for the RABE 523, but I had to look in the game to find out that number because it's not mentioned anywhere in the manual. After leaving the city of Luzern and negotiating the steeply graded section past Emmenbrücke, the line runs out to the countryside and along the southern shore of Sempacher See before arriving at Zorzee. The scenic nature of the real line, especially north of Sempach-Neuenkirch, results in one of the TSW version's few saving graces. And at least the depot at Luzern is included, so you can do empty stock moves as well as normal passenger services, although the depot is less than a kilometre from the station. There are only 9 stations on this route, and even if you drive an S1 stopping service, it only takes 34 minutes to cover the full route. So in that sense, S-Bahn Zentralschweiz suffers from the same problem as Dovetail's LGV Mediterranee, another linear route with short journey times and severely limited replay value. The slightly faster regional express services only take 23 minutes to go from Luzern to Zurzee, and vice versa. The inclusion of only one train results in the in-game rail scene looking rather boring and repetitive. Weirdly, there's a poster advertising the West Cornwall local add-on aboard the RABE 523, WCL being another infamously bad route that Rivet made. According to Goggle Translate, the German text on this poster translates to "Welcome to West Cornwall. Experience picturesque coastlines and rolling landscapes with our West Cornwall route." Not to burst Rivet's bubble or anything, but having played on that route myself, I can safely say that the scenery is actually terrible. And there are several other issues with this route besides the scenery. One of them being the badly edited sounds on the Class 150. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the inclusion of ETCS, short for European Train Control System, in this add-on, despite the fact that the Luzern to Zurzee section apparently doesn't even use ETCS in real life. Regardless of that minor inconvenience, both Level 0 and Level 1 of ETCS are simulated, but from what I've read in numerous reviews on Steam, there are so many bugs with Rivet's recreation of ETCS that I couldn't believe the add-on was even allowed out to release in such a state, even though I've come to expect nothing but shoddy products from Rivet at this point. Instructions on how to enable ETCS on the RABE 523 can be found in the manual and a rather basic in-game tutorial, but when I ran timetable mode services, I opted to drive with it disabled because I didn't want to deal with the alleged bugs. For the most part, I think the station modelling isn't too bad, especially at Luzern, and I also like the details inside the nearby depot. This version of Luzern Station shows the current station building that has been in use since 1991, and Rivet even modelled the original arch outside the main station, and this arch is all that remains of the old station building, which was destroyed by fire in 1971. However, the bus terminal outside barely resembles its real-life counterpart, especially without the trolleybus wires. There are numerous yards and sidings throughout the route, but there are no freight services available due to the lack of any standard gauge Swiss locomotives and freight wagons in the game. This is especially unfortunate at Emmenbrücke and Rothenburg, where large industrial complexes are located. I don't know what sort of locomotive would be suitable for those yards, but the lack of any freight rolling stock does not help this route where the replay value is concerned. Some of the immediate trackside scenery is pretty bad, especially this depiction of the intersection with Bahnhofstrasse and Görleswilstrasse near Emmenbrücke station. Not only is Bahnhofstrasse way too narrow, but the buildings are wrong, and the trolleybus wires that you'd see here in real life are, for some reason, nowhere to be seen in the game. Another badly depicted intersection can be found at Rothenburg, with this roundabout barely resembling its real-life counterpart, and it's clearly visible from the railway track. Besides the alleged ETCS bugs and low-quality scenery, other issues I've found on this route include, but are not limited to, the overhead wires being dead straight instead of zigzags, an occasional glitch where you couldn't board the train even when the doors were open, due to a weird invisible wall with the windows outline, I think, and the game being prone to crashing when I tried bringing up the 2D map. This still happened at least 6 times, even after I verified the game files. As for why the overhead wires are zigzagged in real life, that's to make sure the wire doesn't wear a groove in just one place on the pantograph. It may not surprise anyone to know that, now that I've tried S-Bahn Zentralschweiz for myself, I think it's yet another dud from the Rivet Games catalogue, and they haven't really improved all that much, if at all, in the time since this route was released, to the point where I think Dovetail Games should sever ties with them. This may sound controversial, but if we ever get another Swiss route in TSW, I think Rivet Games should have absolutely no involvement in its development, unless they can prove to us that they can make a truly great add-on on par with Blackpool Branches and the Niedertalbahn. And with that statement, I just realised that I sounded like the king of wishful thinking. As for any route suggestions for other developers, I want to see Zurich Hauptbahnhof to Uetliberg in TSW. While that is still a very short route, at only 10.3 kilometers long, it is at least a complete end-to-end line, and it's rather unusual due to having 2 underground stations in central Zurich, as well as a steep and winding track up to the top of a mountain. And it's also the steepest standard gauge adhesion railway in Europe. If Rivet ever does make another Swiss route, I will either be very cautiously optimistic and wait to read other reviews before buying it myself, or just not bother with it at all. While I realise that S-Bahn Zentralschweiz still offers a rare break from the usual UK, US and German routes, that doesn't, or at the very least shouldn't, change/excuse the fact that this route is absolutely spoiled by the boring rail scene, pathetically short route coverage, and severely limited replay value. I simply cannot recommend this add-on based purely on those 3 aforementioned issues. But if, like me in the past, you're still ridiculously curious to try out this route for yourself, don't buy it at full price. Wait for a sale and buy it then instead. But for the time being, this route only gets a 2 or 3 out of 10 from me.